Hey, everybody, another edition of Tartar Sauce here at the Journal-Star in Peoria, Illinois. And with me today, from the Epiphany Church in downtown Peoria, Chris Marchand. Chris, you're the music director at the church there?
That's right.
And we brought you in here a little late. We'll get into that later, whether it's late or not, because you're working on a book that might be of real interest to everybody. The 12 Days of Christmas. Now, you haven't completed it.
I haven't
but
completed
you're working on it.
I'm working on it. That's right.
And somebody might say, Tarter, why are you bringing up Christmas after Christmas? It's actually after New Year's. But you're going to tell me, hey, the 12 Days of Christmas, we're okay.
That's right. Yeah. So I had a good friend, and he was on Facebook. We were just talking. I was mentioning some things about Christmas, and he goes, the 12 Days of Christmas, isn't that December 13th through the 25th?
Right.
And I was, and this kind of thing happens quite frequently. To be honest, people really don't know when it is at all. Like they wouldn't.
It's
they
an
would just
open
be
question.
Some people might say, "Well, doesn't it begin after the day after Thanksgiving?" I mean, people just don't even really know, and so
that's why we need a book on it.
Exactly. There's my segue. That's why I wanted to write a book on it. I'll admit something. Like I'm a church guy. I've had this big church background, but I've never really seen many people do Christmas as a season that begins on December 25th. So just to be clear, 12 Days of Christmas, December 25th through January 5th. And I don't know.
You heard it here, folks.
There you go. Yeah. There's the official word.
Now we have it.
Now it is confusing though, because when does Christmas actually begin? And so for many people, and it's okay to say this, Christmas begins on Christmas Eve, December 24th. And so is that an extra night, or how do we count all this? But just to make it simple, there's this little celebration called Twelfth Night, and that would be January 5th. Right. And so, I mean, I am doing research, and I've read numerous books on it. But I'd be interested to see if there's any British people out there that they think, yeah, you know what, my family did some 12th night stuff. I mean, so like 12th night, which is, what is that, tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
It's a night of games and revelry and wassailing, and so that we talked a little bit earlier about Christmas music, but but the caroling is something that would go throughout the whole 12 days sometimes, and people would just show up at people's houses and
I'm guessing that the change has come, and this is nothing brand new, because I mean Stan Freberg was talking about the commercialization of Christmas in the 50s and mocking it and all that, but when you have now stores that open on Thanksgiving because they want to sell you Christmas items or on your list, whatever, then it's clear that that's at least the start of some kind of season, at least from the retail side. Yeah. And people are probably going to say that's when the radio station, those that want to play Christmas music, start then, play it right through Christmas, and then, boy, the curtain comes down hard on Christmas Day.
Yeah. So there's a lot of tension there. And one of the tensions is this whole commercialization. So whether you are a church-going person or not, I think we all kind of feel that discomfort of like, so let's say that gift giving in and of itself is a good thing. Hey, I brought you this present, whether I bought it for you or I made it for you. Oh, it's, our hearts
from
warm.
you.
Oh, there's a warmth there. But no matter whether we're in church or not, and however we want to relate to the holy side of things, there's something a little bit uncomfortable about what we've done as a culture. Right. I don't know what to do about it. So, I mean, in some ways, this book is maybe an answer to that. It's trying to say, okay, I get it. I get you're going to feel that pull to go out and shop. Let's say the day after. Let's not shop on Thanksgiving. Let's keep something close.
Some people have pulled back from that. That's good.
Right. Well, wasn't it kind of like the 10 p.m. openings? Oh,
yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
No, I was I covered it for the paper at Target and several other stores, and they're pretty busy. Best Buy on Thanksgiving evening. I mean, they didn't do it like during the afternoon, but it was a little later in the evening. But yeah, it seems like I walked by. This was at the I always forget the name, Evergreen Shopping Center, I guess, where Best Buy is. And you walk by the Lowe's, which was closed That store was closed,
right.
and they had all their Christmas trees out, and it was the aroma was there of Christmas.
Right.
And you walk into Best Buy, and there's, wow, everyone's in line and buying up a storm. But we present a different side of Christmas here. Let's talk a little bit about your church.
Yeah.
Which somebody might say, where is Epiphany Church? You meet at the GAR Hall in the
GAR
Downtown
Hall,
Peoria.
Grand Army of the Republic. I think it's on Hamilton. And the Peoria Historical Society, we rent from them. And it's a lovely place to worship. We like to joke our patron saints of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln are on the wall, as opposed to Mary and Peter and all that.
Right.
But it's a fascinating place to worship, and it's a beautiful space.
Yeah, I was going to say, if people haven't been in to the GAR Hall, and I know it's been around a long time, so a lot of folks have, but you've got plenty of room.
Yeah.
That big, the main auditorium,
That's
or whatever
right,
they call it, and it's a wonderful site. Now, how many folks do you get? Typically, because you were saying you're a small church.
We are a small church. Yeah, we've been around since 2011. It is what's called a church plant, and some church plants, they start with a whole team and a bunch of funding, and we were kind of the opposite of that. We thought, well, where can we grow a community? Where can we build culture? And so currently we're about 30 to 40 people every Sunday. It just depends on the Sunday. And Greg Lynn is our some people might call our senior pastor, but he's a priest. And we have another. I'm a deacon there, but I lead the music, and then there's another deacon. His name's Ben Sutton, and we're kind of a community of people.
Now, you mentioned the upcoming people, by the way, who want to drop by and see it 10 o'clock on a Sunday. It would be a good time.
Yeah, we do some coffee time at 10 o'clock, and then worship begins at 10:15.
You said this Sunday you're still going with the Christmas music.
Yes. That's
even after 12th night.
And I like to just torture people, and I think it's a good point that you bring it up. Some of us are church curmudgeons, where we staunchly say we're not going to sing any Christmas music before December 25th.
Okay.
Now, I'm kind of a mixture, and I'll get to your question, by the way. Here's my mixture.
Okay.
I actually don't bring Christmas music into church before December 25th.
Oh.
Now, we do sing O Come, Emmanuel, that classic old carol. Now, that's an Advent hymn. And so we bring the Advent carols, and I don't even know. Do you know anything about the season of Advent? It's what becomes.
Oh yeah, I remember it from years back, but not much more than that.
That's right. So Advent is this season of waiting and preparing for the coming of Christ, and so in church we kind of take on that posture where our scriptures are all about the coming of Christ, and we're waiting and preparing. And so I don't sing Christmas carols in church. In my personal life, I will. I listen to what I want to listen to. I'm not gonna walk. And as a church musician, I kind of have to listen to it all anyway. So, but yeah. And
if you go and I'm sure every church has its own style and has its own interest. But I know there's a lot of music in church now. I mean, across the board. I mean, that's obviously an interest of yours. Has it changed over the years, or is it?
Yeah.
What's your kind of reading of when you say church music? That's a big body of work.
I stand in the middle of it all between what is known as traditional music, traditional church music,
hymns,
the hymns and the choirs, and the organs. Because organ for some church musicians is like the staple instrument, because they think the organ is the best thing to lead the people in their own singing. It's very clear. You can do a very clear melody line. Whereas on my guitar, and I lead on guitar, I'm one of those guys, and it's really hard to pick out the individual melody line to lead people on guitar. So I stand in the midst of that traditional and what's known as contemporary music. I don't know what you might have heard of. There's the biggest group is like Hillsong or Chris Tomlin. These are these huge artists. I mean, Hillsong, they're a church originally out of Australia, but they released a live concert film in movie theaters. And this is like big, in some ways the music is like big stadium anthems. Some people liken it to like U2, the band U2 kind of started these huge rock songs, and that's worked its way into our church music. Now, I like a good melody that people can sing. That's that's what I'm looking for. I do lead on guitar, but it tends to be a little more subdued. And
how many songs will you do in a typical service?
That's a good question. Let's just say 7.
Okay,
around 7. Some of those are like littler songs, like we do a short little Alleluia. And they're just little itty bitty songs, and then the other ones are the regular hymns. And so I do a mixture of the contemporary with the traditional hymns and all that. So
and now, where are you from, Chris?
I'm originally from Metamora.
Okay,
I was born and raised there. Yeah, but I live in Peoria.
And do you frequent other churches? I mean, how do you kind of get a handle on church music?
Now I don't have time to go to other churches. That's the downside. It's of being,
you're working.
You're working. Yeah, we're all busy on Sunday.
Right.
I would say I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups.
Okay.
Where, like, for instance, there were people sharing around. Do you have a good Christmas? New Christmas carols, anything that you're listening to, and so people will post on it, and it just becomes its own little thread. And of course, you have to be active enough on those groups to know what might be going on. But there's just a ton of blogs and websites if you want to find
all the information you need is out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's I think that might be interesting for people that maybe they're not into church music. It's just a world unto itself, just like anybody else has their interests. And we all have our own groups.
Let's go back to the 12 days of Christmas, because I didn't want to just abandon it, since we are in the 12 days of Christmas.
That's
now.
right.
We know we're in solid. What has surprised you in so far? Anything?
As I've been writing.
As you've been writing, as you've been researching and looking at these 12 days that some of us aren't sure about?
What I've kind of been interested in is how what we do in Christmas is and I'm speaking as a Christian. It's a mixture of this holy with the fun or the secular side of things. And so I'm writing this book on the traditions of Christmas, and just as much as I want people to be drawn to church and drawn to prayer and worship and the sacred side of things, I've been really fascinated how there is just a fun side to Christmas. So to give you an example, and in some ways this is like part of where the book came out of, is the song, The 12 Days of Christmas.
Right.
I don't know about you, but that song has always as a kid, I was just like, what's the deal with this song?
Yeah. What's with these leaping lords? And
why
do you need 5 rings?
Who wants any of this stuff? Like this is crazy.
That turtle dove thing, that gets me right there.
Well, some Christians have tried to really spiritualize it, and how each of the gifts represents parts of the faith and all that. But I don't necessarily think that is why the song was written. Because in my research, and this was a surprise, the 12 Days of Christmas is a song that you can sing on 12th night, and it's a game where you try to catch each other out. Where if you got a group of kids or just even a group of adults, and you have to go through the 12 days, and it's a memorization song. Oh yeah. Can you get all of all 12 of the gifts and get on? And if you mess up, you
got to go back to the beginning.
Some of the people, it was called a forfeit game, and you had to give up something. Like, you have your pen there, and be like, you got to give me your pen. And it'd be like a forfeit game, a silly, fun thing to play on 12th night. So it's stuff like that where it's like, oh, that's not necessarily spiritual. It's just
Will you
fun.
be playing this game on 12th night?
With my kids. My kids don't know
Give back all those toys. All right, you got to give me this. Give me that.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
12th night, when you talk about 12th night, and we've heard that. We've heard 12th night.
It's a Shakespeare play.
I was going to say Shakespeare, what? So it's been around a few hundred years. But the possibilities, and this is a terrible thing to say because I know you're not here to promote a new marketing endeavor, but we go through all these Black Friday and Cyber Monday and blah blah blah. Hey folks, you forgot about 12th night. You can go one more time.
Yeah.
You know, well, again, I don't want to overdo it.
Well, there's something similar to the way that Jewish people do Hanukkah, and I think it might vary from family to family, but there's this idea that you give one gift a day.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And so there are some people that say, let's do that for Christmas, like a progressive way of giving kids gifts.
Spread it out.
Spread it out. It wouldn't necessarily have to be 12 gifts. It might just be, you know, a few gifts here. You know, we could talk about that, and that's kind of what I'm writing. I'm not writing one particular, like, it has to be this way. I'm giving people options. Like, this is one way to look at it.
Is your book going to be illustrated?
There are going to be a few illustrations in that. I'm working that out. A friend of mine who I go to church with, her name is Blair Clark, and she's an artist in the area here, and she has started a group called the Emerging Artists, Collective Emerging Artists Group, and she helps to lead that with a few other artists. But I've asked her to do the cover for it, and we're working out whether or not there will be other illustrations inside the book as well. But I'm really looking forward to what she's doing.
Well, I think it's fascinating because we're talking with Chris Marchand of the Epiphany Church in downtown Peoria about a book you want to have it out by fall of this year, 2019.
2019, that's the hope. And I have been doing this little crowdfunding campaign to do it, and the upside and the downside of it is I've been able to get the word out about it because I'm doing this crowdfunding, but it's taken all of my time this past 2 months to just do the whole campaign for it, and it's kind of interesting. Like it's kind of the plight of authors and artists in today's world, which is you kind of have to get out there on your own and do your own thing.
One thing, I was listening to NPR the other day, and one encouraging thing, they reported, and I don't know if this is a post-Christmas story kind of thing, but books are doing well.
I've heard
I mean,
about
they
that.
made a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah.
I don't know what the actual sales numbers are, but that ebooks kind of declined a little bit, and the regular paper books. The comment that sticks in my mind was a funny thing happened on the way to the funeral. The book being the funeral, the patient didn't die, or the book didn't die because it's hanging in there. And you know, we have unfortunately we've had some stores go down, but the small independent bookstore remains viable.
Like Lit on Fire and
Lit on Fire and One in the Heights. I know you like a book, I think there's others, but it's got to be very tough. But still, they're hanging in there.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
which is good. So and I know this. The library, Peoria Public Library, their bookstore, which is down in their basement.
Oh yeah.
Friendly Finds.
It's a cool little place.
Cool little place. Boy, you can get some good deals down there.
Yeah, you can.
You can get some very good deals. So that's another day, and we will give them their own shot when they want to come on. What is kind of your interest, Chris? Moving on. Obviously, you want to get the book done.
Yeah.
You're working every Sunday. You got the church going. What's ahead for you? What's in your plan, if you will? Where would you like to go?
Personally?
Personally, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been working towards writing this book for a few years. It's taken a lot of time to just kind of get it going. And so I love to write. I have a few other book ideas. We'll see where that all heads from here.
Right. And you got your music.
Have my music. We're doing church music. One of the things that we did this year, we partnered with Zion Coffee, Banu and Mike Hatfield, and we do a Christmas Carol sing-along. And we do it before Christmas, by the way. Technically, we should just be some cultural rebels and do it after Christmas Day.
Whoa! But look out! Look out!
But we do it.
Everyone in the place will be murmuring, "Why are we doing this now? Why are we doing this now?"
But I really enjoyed putting that on every year. I do it with other kind of church music leaders, and it's a public event. We just sing Christmas carols, and I know there's other Christmas carol sing-alongs in the area too.
Right.
But,
Journal Star's had one for.
Have you really?
Oh my goodness, we've done it for 100 years? Or no, it isn't that long, but a long time. Anyway,
yeah.
I should know, but it's in our paper every year anyway.
Yeah.
But no, the thing gets me with the Christmas whole thing is it gets, and this kind of gets back to the whole commercialization thing. You know, some people get weary of Christmas.
Yeah.
Because I think they they watch the movies or they listen to the music, whatever their interests are in that area. And it just, I don't know if it's just sort of people just have so much, I can only handle this for so long, and then I have to go back to my normal routine. I don't know what that is, but it just seems like it's in your face every time you turn around. You can't go into a store. You can't. Yeah. If you have children, obviously it's hugely important, and that's, as you say, there's a fun side to it. But when you spread it out 12 more days, some would say, "Boy, you're going to get some resistance to that," because people are going to say, "Hey,
I've thought a lot about that, and in some ways, for better or for worse, this book might be written for Christians, because what I would want to encourage people is to enter into, as churches, enter into that season of Advent, and thus, when the December 25th rolls around, now it's time to celebrate.
Now we can start singing.
And I realize, there's culturally, there's going to be just some like, well, why are you doing that? And I'll let the book have to stand on its own. Maybe it'll argue it for it, and people will have to take it up or not.
What you should do, and I know we just talked briefly before you came in, and I know you had perhaps contact with some of the Christian stations in this market.
Yeah.
We've got several. You ought to work with them and say, hey, you ought to start on Christmas Day and go through 12th night. As a little, sort of, little change it around a little bit.
To not play. Well, so I mean, I fully understand that by December 25th, people are sick of hearing.
The same,
Jingle
Bell Rock or
Jingle Bell, that Paul McCartney song that with
what is the name of that?
Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time, which people there's some that people just like drives them crazy.
Grandma got run over by reindeer. I don't hear that as much. I used to hear that a lot.
I just looked up an article. Somebody on Facebook was just like, I hate that song, and I was like, you know what? Why does that song exist? I looked it up. There's this long interview with the author of that song, and he told in it he was writing that song because he was feeling nostalgic about his family Christmases, and he wanted to write a Merle Haggard Christmas song. Like he said, what would Merle Haggard write if he, so he wanted to write this kind of this dirty country Christmas anyway. So there's a part of the history of that song.
We could do a whole radio show, here I am on a podcast, a pod show, whatever it is, on offbeat Christmas songs, because there's a lot. There was a Swedish version with the voices. I even, it's a Swedish voice. I'm not going to try doing it because I'll butcher it. But, and it's all about him describing the family get together and everyone's falling in the eggnog and all this other stuff. But those used to get played all the time. These quite a body of music.
I do know there's a podcast. I think it's I'm trying to think of what it is, but they bring out. There's this guy that he peruses record stores, and he finds some of the weirdest, novelty type Christmas tunes, and he puts out collections every year.
Oh yeah,
culls them from different vinyl records.
Well,
it's fascinating.
I was mentioning this to Craig Moore, who has an old used record store in Peoria, and I was telling him, because I know I don't know if he would appreciate it, but he would kind of understand it. I went into the where WIRL used to be, the radio station. Right after they moved to downtown Peoria. They were over there in East Peoria. And I was going through there for some reason with one of the techies there. And it was a place that had been cleaned out rather hurriedly. And, there were still wastebaskets with paper in them and stuff. So it probably had only been a few days. But all the music was gone. All the records were gone, with one exception. I saw a bunch of records in one of the studios that was empty otherwise. And they were all Christmas albums. Because what they had done was use those for commercials during the Christmas season. Yeah. And, they probably extracted just a little bite off one or the other. As Moore told me, I should have taken all those, so I could wind up in your store.
That's right.
Yeah, but I didn't, and there they are. But I mean, they probably would have been worthwhile just to listen to. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Well, something that you said about the music, and this isn't exactly related to that, but I am not writing this book on the 12 days of Christmas because I simply want to give more people more things to do.
Okay.
You know, I'm not trying to say, listen,
it's not enough. You want more Christmas.
We've jammed all this stuff into the beginning of December. Now let's jam more. I am arguing for a little bit of a shift.
Yeah.
And I think it should be a mixture of the sacred with the family. You know, one of the things I would advocate for, and I haven't quite gotten there myself as with my own family, but to just turn everything off and read each other's stories.
On 12th night? Or are you talking about during the 12 days?
Sometime during the 12 days. Let's just draw back instead of doing another thing. You know, maybe, and I'm going to go out on a limb, but Christmas carol singing isn't everybody's thing.
Right. Well, only because when you hear somebody who's really can't sing, you want to tell them, hey, thanks a lot, but please stop, you know.
You know, and I'm musical, but for some people it's a little bit awkward, you know. But let's get back to those types of traditions of let's just read stories out loud to each other. There's a friend on Facebook, and his wife bought him Victorian Christmas ghost stories.
Oh yeah,
there are these like several volumes. Now again, people might go like, what are you going to read that for? by the way, the most famous Christmas ghost story. Christmas Carol. It's a Christmas ghost story. Yeah. So what Dickens was doing was kind of in a tradition of these kind of stories. And I have some friends from the Czech Republic, and they have all of these like just these dark stories. You know,
do you read at Christmas time?
You read at Christmas time. It's fascinating. Now, and there is an aspect of the supernatural there, which is this idea of the darkest night of the year, and it's when the spirits come out. It's funny how it's kind of similar. There's a similarity to Halloween.
Well,
in that sense.
And I haven't read this, you know, in terms of research, but just sort of anecdotally, Santa, Saint Nicholas,
yes,
is this kind of, and I must have heard this on the radio. In some cultures, it was kind of a bad dude. I mean, you know, you didn't want to mess with him. He was kind of mean, you know. And I don't know if that carries through with what you were saying. I don't know.
So Saint Nicholas is a whole other thing, isn't it? I mean, so first of all, December 6th is the feast day of Saint Nicholas, and he was a bishop from Turkey, let's say, I believe in the 400s, 300s, 400s, and his feast day is on December 6th. And so over time, yes, he's kind of gotten lumped in with December 25th. And there's this debate whether or not Saint Nicholas is the same thing as Father Christmas. Like they've kind of gotten lumped into each other because it's, as you say, there's this understanding of Saint Nick is coming or Santa Claus is coming and he's going to get you. And there is some fascinating stuff in Europe where I think we Americans, we don't want to feel bad anymore as Americans. And there's some sense that's good. We don't want to live with this guilt-ridden life. But yeah, we've totally abandoned
the bad side away. Well, and again, you know, not to hammer away at the same theme. Some people would say that's all you do, but you know, I would say it's because if you want to sell somebody something, you want it to be a positive thing. You don't want to be. I mean, I guess if you're talking about going to a horror movie, it's a little different, but otherwise, you want it to be Coca-Cola. You know, the guy's raiding the icebox, and hi Santa. You know, it was always a happy thing, which I think most of us approve of. You know,
right.
You know.
A lot of this began in the early to mid 1800s with the what's it called? The Night Before Christmas. That poem, and that poem took out a lot of the negative aspects of Santa.
Right. He's
just a jolly old elf.
Right.
And so there were previous poems and other things leading up to that.
It wasn't quite so positive.
It wasn't quite so jolly.
Yeah.
And so I've actually, there's this book I'm reading called The Battle for Christmas, which is really fascinating. It's about the history of Christmas in America. And there's been a lot of back and forth. The Puritans, they did not want Christmas here at all. And there were times where it was completely banned, like from the Massachusetts Bay Colony and all that. So you just couldn't have it.
Pretty strict. Yeah.
Pretty strict. And a lot of that had to do with some of the revelry going on.
Well, how about alcohol?
Alcohol. 9 months later, a lot of babies were being born. babies that from people that weren't quite married yet, and in the villages, this was a problem. And the Puritans, they got it out. So
oh my goodness.
It's fascinating to look at some of the back and forth of the way Christmas has been celebrated.
Well, it's great that you're providing all this info, because somebody who's checking this out is going, well, again, questioning the timing, because ideally we would have had this on mid-December or something.
Go.
But then really not, because just based on what you're saying, there's absolutely a good reason to bring it up after Christmas, because hey, all the falderall is done now. I mean, at least the stores can stop counting their losses or gains or whatever that is.
That's right.
I mean, we're so immersed in that.
Yeah.
Like each one of us as a consumer seems to have a stake in, gee, I hope the retailers make huge profits off us.
Oh, right, yeah.
and we want everyone to do well.
We want people to succeed, right? Yeah,
we want success. But at the same time, it's like overkill.
Yeah.
And just throws. I think you see it with kids. It's like having too much sugar. They just you're off the wall.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. That's a little bit like that.
The New Yorker cartoon with this huge mountain of presents under the tree, or actually, masking or hiding the tree. Mm-hmm. And one kid is saying to the other, brace yourself, looks like they're getting a divorce. Because, that's sort of the thing. I got to give this kid something, placate him. But anyway.
That's good.
We're telling cartoons here without pictures, folks. It's like, going to an art gallery on the radio. I don't know how that works.
Well, let me say one thing about, you asked like what was been surprising, or maybe what I've been interested in.
Right.
This Sunday is what's known as Epiphany, the Feast of Epiphany, and that's
good name for your.
It's the name of our church, right?
Yep.
And the Epiphany is where we talk about the wise men coming to visit Christ, and they present him with the gifts. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, here's what, in some ways, what I think is one of the more interesting things about arguing for the 12 days as a season, is you get to tell the story over time. And so you get to talk about the angel visiting Mary, and you get to talk about that in December. But then you get to talk about the birth on December 25th, or on the Christmas Eve, the 24th. And then there are these events leading up to when the wise men come from the east, and they come and they visit Christ. So I like that idea, and we do this in churches for Easter. So we have Palm Sunday, and then you have Good Friday, and then the Last Supper, and so you get to tell the story over time. Christmas, for some reason, we've just stopped doing that. It's just like it just all happens on the 25th,
right? And
so I think, to me, one of the upsides to doing this is to say, yes, we get to spread it out, tell the fuller story. And, again, it relates to kids. But I don't know, I'm still enthralled by it too.
Well,
so
here's my thought on that, and this is taking us just sort of, we're all amateur PR mavens here. But the way to move that needle ahead for the 12 days, starting Christmas to the 12th night, would be through the churches.
Yeah.
Through getting more than just your church, but or the body of churches that you belong to, but getting other churches to kind of say, hey, this might be a good idea, a good way to do this. And again, depending on what they want to do, because then it'd carry over to the families. Perhaps it would take a little time, but
well, that's the hope. Yeah. And we'll see. We'll see if my humble little book gets us there. But but you know what? Every book, it's an essay. It's just an argument for something. So hey, we'll see what happens.
Well, hey, we got to have you come back when the book's out.
Okay.
And we'll talk about getting it just in time for Christmas. No, we'll go back to what we just spent all the show talking about.
The book won't come out except on December 25th. I won't allow it a day sooner.
Yeah, don't do a book signing. Don't do a book signing before that.
Never.
No. Okay. All right. Well, Chris, we love having you on here. Chris Marchand of the Epiphany Church, and it's GAR Hall this Sunday. If you're interested, go down there at 10 o'clock where they're having coffee, a little social time. You start at 10:15, correct?
That's right.
And this man will give you the Christmas music. Are you going to do Jingle Bell Rock? No.
I did that at Zion Coffee.
Very good.
We did that, but not at church.
I
do like that song. Okay. I love all Christmas music.
See,
so.
you can't go wrong with Chris. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming, and I want to thank Matt Dayhoff at the controls. Gets this out to you folks, And we'll see you next time on Tartar Sauce.